And last week we talked about having an outline and being able to structure your novel. Today I want to talk about how you can learn how to structure your novel by watching movies and why it's actually a good idea to do so.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Monte channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia Monte. I'm a women's fiction author, and I come on Fridays to give you some writing advice because I'm assuming that you might also be a writer or at least a reader who really enjoys the art of reading and writing and understanding stories. So today, let's talk about the how to look at or how to watch movies with an eye towards an outline and how that movie was structured. Okay, so hopefully I don't ruin movies for you after this. But so back in 2005, I was writing a character that I really loved for one of my novels, Becoming Latina in 10 Easy Steps, that I wrote under my pseudonym Laura Rios. And the character that I had a really, really cool job. Okay, so she was going to be an animator. The reason I chose that at the time, quite honestly, is because my son really loved to draw and loved, animation and all of that. And I started looking into that for him and really kind of thought it was a cool job to have. I also happen to have taken my kids to Disneyland out in Orlando, and I got an opportunity to do a behind the scenes. Gosh, I can't speak today. A behind the scenes tour where I they were creating the movie Mulan at the time, and so they were in the process or was about to be released or something like that. But anyhow, the we got to listen to the animators speak and show us pictures of how they had created Mulan, and I just found the whole thing really interesting and fascinating. Plus, I really loved the story. So anyhow, my character became this animator, and I started to watch a lot of these shows. So I was already watching them because of my children, but then I started watching like Monsters Inc. I had the little DVD, the DVD of it, and then in the back of the DVD there were bonus videos, and one of the cool videos was how they animated and created the monsters and the characters and how they actually made the fur move and look realistic, and again, very interesting and fascinating stuff. So the research was a lot of fun to for me for that book. Now, very little of it actually goes into a novel, right? So it's kind of funny how much research you have to do sometimes and really understand it to make it seem realistic to the readers. But I really did. I really enjoyed it because I didn't mind watching this and learning about it. But then, the movie Mulan came out, and I watched it. And as I'm watching it, I'm realizing, how clear they're following the hero's journey, especially for the movie Mulan, because it is a story of adventure plus romance, and it was perfect for me as a romance writer. So I watched it, multiple times. So the first time, of course, I'm just watching it, but afterwards, I'm noticing that she is going through all this. So then I go back and I watch it again. It's like, wait a minute, let me see exactly how she, where is the call to adventure? Where is this? Where is this all happening? So I'm going to share with you movie Mulan. Okay, I also wrote a blog about this, and I did do Monsters Inc. as well, so you can take a look at it. I'll post it in the description section on the bottom. But I'm going to just talk about Mulan today, so that we can just stick to one, so that you can see how, again, very clearly, maybe because it is a movie made for children, and so it cuts it down to the basics, right? All those plot points are there. So if I was going to outline that movie, it would be very easy to say, this is where this happens, this is where this happens, this is where this happens. So let me go through that with you, and you'll see. Then you can go watch the movie. So the one that I watched, I haven't even watched, and I really want to, the new one, the new version. But the one that I had originally looked at, of course, was the older Disney animated feature. So first, let's talk about what is the story of Mulan about? Well, they tell you in Act One. So as Act One begins, there is the inciting incident, okay, which is one of the first things that happens in the ordinary world. So we have the ordinary world of Mulan. Mulan is a young woman living in China. She is expected to get married, and she's expected to do, all the things that young women were supposed to do back then. And she isn't really excited about this. She goes to see a matchmaker. So it's kind of some funny scenes there. But you see her in her ordinary life. She's kind of a little bit of a klutz and really doesn't fit into that normal role. But then the inciting incident happens. Okay, so the very first thing, or her call to adventure that happens, is that the Huns invade China, and because the Huns are invading China, China needs to prepare for a war. And so they start they go and ask for every family. One man from every family has to join the army. Now, unfortunately for Mulan's family, she doesn't have any brothers. She's the only child. And so the only male in the family is her father. And so her father has to be the one to join the army. Well, her father's older and kind of frail. Mulan tries to stand up for him and say, "Hey, you can't take him. He's older. He's going to die. You can't do this." And then she gets put in her place by her dad. Her dad tells her, "No, it's not your place as a woman to do this. You need to go back and be quiet, and I'll take care of this." So basically, he just tells her to step back. It's not her place. But she has this call to adventure. She knows she can't let her father go and die. So she decides that she is going to go in his place. The only way she can go in his place is to pretend to be a man. So she cuts off all her hair, she changes, and she leaves home without telling anybody. Talks to her ancestors, a really kind of bizarre, spiritual scene there where she's talking to her ancestors. She gets her mentor. Okay, so her mentor is Mushu, which I believe is a cricket, and and then it closes, right? That closes Act One of the story, so that you at this point you know who the characters are, you know what the problem is, you know what there's going to be conflict because she is pretending to be a boy or a man when she's not, and that she's off to join the army, right? To join the army to prepare for war. And she gets this little mentor guy who is a little bit of a trickster and kind of a troublemaker, and he is going to get her into a lot of trouble throughout the movie. But he also is there to kind of guide her and support her in this adventure that she's going on. Okay, so that closes Act One. All right, so when we enter Act Two now, what happens is that she finds the regiment that she's going to train with. It's a Disney movie, it's kind of funny. So none of these men that are there are very good. They're not, they can't shoot an arrow, they can't do a lot of stuff. So it shows, what the hero's journey is supposed to show, which is friends that she makes, enemies that she makes. So some of the men, not because she's a woman, because they don't realize she's a woman, they just make fun of her and tease her, and they tease each other, right? So there's again some funny scenes where they're all trying to learn how to fight. Mulan has a really hard time, and the leader of her regiment, I forget what his name is. I'll look that up. Sean, something like that. Anyhow, he is the one that is, most displeased with her. She kind of looks at him and has kind of a crush on her because, again, there's a little bit of romance here. But he's really tough on her because she messes up so much. And it all leads to this one moment, right? So this climactic moment where she thinks she's not going to be able to do it. She's trying to run. She can't run as much as the men. So the leader has to come and pick her up and carry her, which is kind of, it hurts her pride that she can't do it. So she fights really hard to try to get stronger and stronger and be able to do the same thing that the men are doing, so she can fight and she can protect, China, and she can protect her peers and all of this. So we get to a moment where there's this arrow that's stuck on this like long, very tall pole, and so her captain, her leader, Shang is his name. If Shang shoots up the arrow up there, shows them how to go up there and retrieve it by climbing up the pole, none of the guys can do it. They go, they fall, and so finally she struggles and struggles. Shang kind of gives up and leaves, and she makes it all the way to the top. And as Shang is leaving, because of course he doesn't expect her to be able to do this, she tosses the arrow down. As she was able to retrieve the arrow when nobody else was. Again, nobody knows she's a woman yet. Everybody thinks that she's a man. So this is the kind of the middle climactic moment, right, where she gets this huge challenge, where she's either going to be able to prove that she is going to do this, that she can do it, or she's going to fail and not be able to move forward. When we get to the crisis moment in the middle, that's where the character has to prove that they're going to be able to move forward with this, or they're really not. Okay. She does this, that means that she is going to be able to move forward. Then we move to the kind of the next challenge. So another midpoint where she gets challenged now. So now that we're moving forward, she has to meet another challenge where now it's a real fight. So the Huns have now gotten in and they're going to get into a major fight. And they're not doing well. They're losing a lot of men, and so she figures out a way to make an avalanche happen. And when this avalanche happens, she is able to take out a lot of the Huns. And but her her regiment is really beat up. They're not doing well. And she during while this avalanche is happening, she sees that Shang is going to get caught up in the in this avalanche. And again, she's has romantic feelings for him. She cares about him. She doesn't want this to happen. So she goes and saves him from getting killed. But in the process of doing that, she gets knocked out, and they discover that she is a woman. Now, this is a horrific thing, right? That she's a woman, and because she lied or because she's a woman, it's never quite clear to me if it's because she lied or because she's a woman. But she's committed this horrible crime, and this is like the supreme ordeal here, where we're getting to, where it looks like everything is lost. And so what's supposed to happen is that she's supposed to die. We're supposed to kill her because of this deception of hers. So Shang goes off with her to kill her, but can't bring himself to do it. And just says, you saved my life. We're now even. I'm saving your life, but you're done. You're not coming with us. And they basically leave, and they leave her there in the middle of nowhere. And so again, it looks like everything is lost, and there is that part of the hero's journey where this is sort of the last doorway in that second act, where everything is going wrong, and it doesn't look like the character's going to be able to get out of this. So what happens, though, is that she sees that the Huns, some of them that did not die and survive, are still headed towards the capital, and what they're going to do is capture the emperor. So she feels like she needs to warn her peers, right? The other guys. Even though they've rejected her, even though they've left her, she's like, no, I need to do this. So she heads to the capital to warn them. They're actually kind of happy to see her, and we move into Act 3, right? The last act now. What's going to happen? This is where she gets that little reward, right? That little recognition of the guys actually accepting her. Even though at first they don't want to, but they're like, okay, they are really kind of happy to see her. And then there's the road back. So how's she going to get back now? How's she going to get back to her ordinary life and win this that she started, right? So she still wants to save the emperor. She still wants to save China. And so there's the whole scene of them trying to keep the Huns from getting the emperor. They do get the emperor, but she devises this very intelligent, tricky way to make sure to save him. And she does. Okay, so where nobody else, the other guys were not able to do it because she is intelligent, because she's creative, because she's persistent, she was able to save the emperor. And, she gets the reward, the return with the elixir, which is part of the hero's journey, which is just means that she gets a reward. She literally gets a reward. She gets a medal or something, and then she's able to go home. When she goes home, she's returning as a hero. However, she still fears that her family is going to reject her, but they don't. They're very happy that she's back. that she saved, her father tells her how proud he is that for what she did, for China. And then even Shang shows up at the end to to see her as a woman, not as a soldier. And so we think there's going to be a happily ever after there, at least it appears to be. So you can see that it hits all those points, right? That the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 is very clear, and all of these plot points are there. And when you watch it, you can see it. Like, okay, I can see where Act 1 ends, and you can kind of see the timing, and it helps for when you're writing a book because you can kind of see, okay, well, did I manage to hit the points that I need in my book? How am I doing it? Sometimes it's a little bit of a twist, right? It's a little bit of a change. With Monsters Inc., which I said I'm not going to talk about, but the only thing I will say is that there's a bit of a difference in Monsters Inc. in that the two monsters, right? If you haven't watched Monsters Inc., it's kind of a bizarre story in a way because these monsters are supposed to scare children because the screams of the children give the monster world energy, and but and then they accidentally let a little girl come into their world, right? So how are the two monster heroes leaving their ordinary world and going into another world? They're actually not doing that. So uh, what happens is their ordinary world changes because somebody else comes into their world. Sometimes there are little twists, which makes it great, right? And you would think, like, if every single story follows this hero's journey, that it wouldn't be interesting because we kind of know the plot and we know the steps, we know the formula. How is it interesting? Well, it's because not every story is different. Every story has different things happening at these moments. But then there's also little twists sometimes. Sometimes there is no mentor. Sometimes there's other things that happen. So it's not going to seem formulaic, and it's not going to seem like it's like the same as every other story because it's not. It's your story. But it's super helpful to watch movies and to kind of see, okay, yeah, I see how this has happened in this movie, and I see the hero's journey here, and I see the turning point, and I see all of this stuff in movies. So animated movies are great, but also actual, adventures or dramas, and you can start to pick out some of those things. So I hope this helps. I hope that you're able to see all the different parts of the hero's journey, and try it. Try it with a movie that you really like, and see if you can find all these different parts and turning points in the story. Yeah, I hope this has been helpful, and if it has, please hit the like button and hit the share button. And I'll see you again next Friday with my next writing tip.